just thought I'd take a short break just to let you know about becoming a Breakout Bestie. So we've launched a brand new subscription service for the small businesses that need us in your pocket. So why do you need to become a Breakout Bestie? Well, it's just a monthly subscription that gives you access to us when you need us. There's a closed group where you can ask us any question you need. There's also an anonymous posting on, so if you've got clients in the same group, you can ask us anything and we'll get back to you. Sometimes that'll be a quick answer, other times it might be that we need a bit more of an in-depth chat. There'll also be posts and information on the latest trends, the latest strategies for social media, upcoming things from HMRC that you may have missed, just anything you need to make your life easier to run your business. You'll also have access to our client base and money off discounts and vouchers for various services we've got coming out. This is brand new, it's only just been launched, so have a look, go on our website under Besties and sign up soon.
I just say, when people ask what do you do, I say, I spend all day talking about love and celebrating love. And that is the essence of what I do, really. Yeah. And as I say, couples, I can genuinely, hand on heart, say that I've never got to the end of a wedding ceremony and thought, well, thank goodness that one's over.
Hi and welcome to Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. This podcast is specifically for business owners or wannabe business owners. Say you've got a side hustle or you've got a passion for something and you think it'd be absolutely amazing, or you see people that do amazing things with their passions and what they enjoy doing. Well, you can do that. So please subscribe and we hope you enjoy listening to this episode. Hi, welcome to Breakout Business Rainbows and Unicorns, where there's no such thing as failure if you don't try. Now today, we're very, very fortunate to have the fabulous, being the bright word, Ruth Sailsbury-Higgs. Welcome, Ruth. Nice
Hello,
to have you
thank you,
on
Farley.
The podcast. We've worked with Ruth for, more or less since we first opened.
Yep.
And Ruth's a celebrant. So if you don't know what a celebrant is, you are going to find out all about what a celebrant is, what they do, how they can help. Ruth is a specialist in weddings, so she's a wedding celebrant. There are celebrants that do other things, but you do baby showers.
No, not baby showers. They're called naming and welcomings. Yeah, naming and welcoming ceremonies. And I also do something that's called a commitment ceremony, which I can expand on a little later if you want to. And renewal of vows.
Yes.
So weddings, renewal of vows.
I've told a lot of people recently, I'm like, you need to do vow renewals.
I know. I just did one on Saturday 2 weeks ago, and the couple had only been married. The couple had been married for 34 years to the day. So it was such a beautiful celebration of the 34-year journey that they'd had. It was absolutely gorgeous. Really lovely.
I love that.
You will notice I will say gorgeous an awful lot.
Gorgeous and fabulous.
Gorgeous and fabulous.
Everything's gorgeous and fabulous. So tell us all about what is your business, because I think I still now, having worked with you for so long and done so many different things with you, I now tell people about celebrants and what you do. And I went to a wedding a couple of weeks ago as well, and celebrant was fantastic over Woodbridge Way.
All right.
And she was absolutely amazing. And everyone at that wedding commented on how it was just the perfect ceremony for the couple. And I think that's now how I explain it, is you can make a ceremony just all about the couple.
That is
no
exactly what it is. No, there aren't any rules. There literally aren't any rules. And so I'm an independent celebrant. There's a slight difference. There's humanist celebrants and independent celebrant. And I am an independent celebrant, which means that I can bring anything into my couple's or my family's celebration that they want me to. Okay? So a lot of people struggle with actually saying the word celebrant.
Yeah.
Celibate, which
that's a whole nother chat,
whole other podcast.
That's a whole other business.
Or celebrant. And I always say to people, think of the word celebrate.
Yeah.
I celebrate love.
Yeah.
And so couples come to me or families come to me because they want to celebrate love.
Yeah.
however that love presents itself in their world. And so it's my goal and the main focus of my work to make that celebration as personal to the couple or to the family as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And that's why when you obviously experienced a celebrant-led ceremony, it was fantastic because it was all about the couple.
Yeah.
Because if you take a wedding, for example, I'm working with couples now for 2025.
Yeah.
So I might not be actually planning their ceremony, but I'm getting to know them.
Yeah.
I'm engaging with them on Instagram and other social media platforms, and I'm getting to know what makes them tick as a couple. They're following me. They can then see what other couples have included in their ceremonies and how we can maybe make that more authentic to them.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what I do, whether it's a naming ceremony, renewal of vows, or whether it is a wedding ceremony. I'm, first of all, my first question to the couple or the family is, what do you want?
Yeah.
How do you want to celebrate this milestone celebration in your family's life? And that's my starting point. What's your vibe? What do you want? What do you want from the ceremony?
It's interesting because we had Jodie Barden from Ella Bella Weddings on, and she was obviously really, really similar of just breaking down those rules and those barriers of what you have to have. And I think for me, now, when I was 9, we've been married 9 years. 9 years ago, we had a registrar, but still it was very much, and I knew I wanted, and it's very much you see on films, don't you, of like, you can write your own vows, but actually with you can write your own vows.
Oh, absolutely. And that for me during a ceremony is one of the most emotional moments because the couple are actually turning to each other and saying what's in their hearts. And I work with my couples individually. If they want to keep them secret from each other, which 99.9% of them do, because obviously then it has a little bit more impact. And I work with them. And, you know, generally couples come and they say, we want to write our vows and we know exactly what we're going to say. Or you get couples saying, we want to, but we don't know how to.
Yeah.
So I say, well, that's not a problem because that's exactly what I can help you with. So I ask them just to write thoughts down, sentences, things you would just like to say to your partner that you're going to continue on through this life with, things that you're going to promise that you're going to do for them throughout your lifetime together. And then I see, that's what they want to say. So I give them suggestions. I don't say, right, this is what you're going to say on the day. Yeah. I give them suggestions and then I send it to them and I say, play around with these words. Make them your own words. Yeah. Bring them, bring the authenticity for you. Then they send them back again and I say, that's absolutely beautiful. And if I see something that because I already know what the other one is like, because I've got to know them so well. And I say, do you think X might like you to say this way? Oh, yeah. She would really love me to say it that way. So then I send back another suggestion till we're happy with it. Yeah. Well, not me. I don't have to be happy with it. But until they're happy with what they want to say. Yeah. And then I get them designed for them, little vow cards designed for them on Canva. And then I take them to this great little place in Long Melford. That prints them out for me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so because you see, I've already got to know the couples so well, through our engagement on social media, and also by meeting them in person, loads and loads of Zoom chats. But one of the easiest ways for me to get to know a couple's language is I send them, after we've done our venue visit, I send them out a couple's questionnaire, which is 18 different questions, and it just asks them all sorts of things about their relationship. And I get their language from their answers. Yeah. So that's almost, apart from conducting the ceremony, that's almost my favourite part of the whole process, because I sit down with a great big mug of tea, or if it's late at night, a gin and tonic.
Yeah, obviously.
And I go to work with my little highlighter pen, and I highlight different things that they've said about each other. Yeah. And so I can get their language from that, their feel for each other from that. And very often they've written their vows within their answers, but they just don't know they've done it.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
yeah.
What's one of the questions?
One of the questions is, which I always love reading, tell me 3 annoying habits about
Brilliant.
X. Yeah.
My friend who got married a couple of weeks ago, she did I promise not to. So her vows was, I promise not to stop walking around the house brushing my teeth. And it was all these little things that obviously, and I think that that she's just must have come up with those kind of annoying habits, and it was very much like I'm not going to stop doing these. This is us.
They are,
and
that's what it should be.
And he got so emotional, and it was just really, really lovely the way it was done. And yeah, we didn't do that, and it's then kind of debunking those myths. Of just, right, okay, there's not one way to get married anymore.
No, there definitely isn't.
You can do, and this is what Jodie and I were saying,
well,
you can do.
There are only certain ways in which you can get married.
Yeah.
Because a celebrant-led ceremony doesn't have any legal standing. And that's really important that people do understand the difference. In this country, the only civil person that can actually conduct and make your marriage a legal entity is a registrar.
Right, okay.
Because the registrar has to hear consenting wording, and they have to hear certain wording that makes your marriage a legal entity.
Yeah.
So any celebration of a couple's love with me doesn't hold any legal standing.
Right.
But a naming ceremony, a christening doesn't either. If you go for a traditional christening in the church, doesn't have any legal standing. So nor does my naming and welcoming ceremonies. And a commitment ceremony is something different. And of course, a renewal is just a celebration of a marriage anyway. So unless you've had your ceremony conducted by a registrar or a religious minister that is also registered to conduct marriages, then what couples do to be able to celebrate in the way that they want to be able to celebrate their love is they go to the registration office a few days before, and they have what's called a simple 2x2 ceremony, which means them, 2 witnesses go, and they complete the paperwork, which makes their marriage a legal entity.
Right, okay.
And then after that, a few days later, we have our wedding celebration ceremony, and that's when it's completely personal to them, where they will exchange their vows and their wedding rings, because they don't have to exchange their wedding rings. It's not part of the legal requirement with the registrar. They exchange their wedding rings for the very first time at our wedding ceremony.
I did not know that.
It's not a legal requirement.
Oh, wow.
No.
But actually, also, you don't have to do that if you don't want to be legally married, I guess, as well.
No, I mean, a lot of people don't wear wedding rings.
Never been married, then they're...
It's a symbol, you see. The wedding ring is a symbol of the vows that you have made to each other. It's the outward symbol for everybody to see. You see someone's, left hand, and you think, okay, third finger, left hand, they're married. Yeah. But not everybody wears a wedding ring, because some people don't like jewellery, and some people just don't feel the need to outwardly show that they are married. They know, and their partner knows. So that wedding ring exchange is something that we incorporate within our ceremonies as well. And I write vows for them over that, and words that they can repeat after me as well. So, it's a beautiful pattern. Then that includes somebody else in the ceremony as the ring bearer. And I have had some amazing ring bearers, really, really lovely. One of the ceremonies this year at Braxted Park, their little 1-year-old boy, he was in a remote-controlled car. With
amazing.
In a little tux, little bow tie. So he was one of the groomsmen. He was controlling the car as it was coming down the aisle. And they had then one of the family members walk down their dog as well, because they wanted the dog as ring bearer. So the dog and the 1-year-old child came down the aisle. And what they say, don't ever work with children and animals.
Yeah.
But it couldn't have gone better.
Oh,
it was brilliant.
Good.
It went really, really well. Yeah. And then the car came to the front, and then I got out the little ring boxes from the car, and I gave them then to the groom's dad. So no, it went really well indeed. So it's
that.
another way, you see, to include family members and friends. I generally have nothing to do with passing the wedding rings over. I always like to include, and I say, who is going to be your ring bearer? Who do you want to include in the ceremony? It's a gorgeous moment to be asked. And one of the things I really like to suggest is that if we're fortunate enough to have both mums with us at the ceremony, that the mums act as the ring bearers.
Yes.
And they then bring forward either their own child's ring to give to the other one, or they give their child's ring to the opposite partner. And then that's the mother saying, welcome to my family.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get all gushing now. But it is. It's just, there's so much. It's that kind of wedding institution, isn't it? Of we've been brought up. That's what happens. That's what you can do. So it's opened so many doors to different people. It's a bit like vow renewals as well. The number of people.
Absolutely.
And because your friends change over the years. So same. I mean, I had all of my bestest friends there, but because I had been married before, they weren't at my first wedding. So it's funny because now it's just these are my friends for life.
These are my
years
tribe.
Later,
Absolutely.
Exactly. And they were all involved in different ways in the reception and stuff. But it was, I wish I'd known about a celebrant.
Which I had 39 years ago. But at the last vow renewal that I did, it was really gorgeous again, because one of the original ushers, when they'd got married at Lewisham Registry Office, he was still there. He was their usher at their renewal of vows ceremony. And another of the ushers, he was upgraded to best man. So I mentioned that in the opening to welcome all the guests and say, one's reviving his role and one's being upgraded. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful ceremony. And it was so them, and I knew it was them because I asked all my couples, are there any quotes, is there anything that you want me to bring in that your guests will think, they would say that? And this couple the quotes were virtually longer than any other answer that they gave me, and they wanted me to include a Blues Brothers quote.
Okay.
So I closed the ceremony and I said, in the words of the inimitable Blues Brothers, it's 106 miles to Chicago. We've got half a pack of cigarettes. We've got a full tank of gas. It's dark and we're wearing sunglasses. What could possibly go wrong? Hit it. And I just knew that their guests felt so included by that point, because the guests started actually saying it along with me.
Oh, love that. Oh, that's amazing.
So when I said hit it, all the guests went, yeah, like that. And then they walked back up the aisle to their song. So no, it's just gives not only the couple what they want, but for the guests. They're sitting there seeing something that no one's ever seen before. Yeah. Because this is all about this couple, you know?
And you're listening to the vows as well, because you don't know what they're going to say. It's not controversial maybe, but you know, stereotypical standard wedding, you know what they're going to say to each other. Whereas this, you get that, and everyone likes that behind the scenes. You get that insight into the relationship that no one sees behind closed doors. So it's that like Mrs. Nosy, what do they actually think of each other sort of thing. So
another way is not just personal vows. Another way to include the guests in the ceremony is I offer my couple something called a community vow, and that is before our couple are going to exchange their own vows, it's time for you to make a few of your own. So as family and friends of Janet and John, do you promise to be there for them for the good times or the bad times? And I asked my couples to actually write maybe a few funny little vows, and couples do that. Do you promise to support Janet while John goes off and builds his motorbike for weekends on end? And do you promise to support John when Janet wants to go and do X, Y, or Z? And then you can see the guests think, and they go, we do.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Lots and lots of different things.
So back to you though, why did you start your own business? Because this isn't your first business.
No,
but...
no. I'm a serial entrepreneur.
That.
No. I was before I became a celebrant, I was a driving instructor for 10 years, which I absolutely adored. But other drivers on the road...
You're just made for life-changing moments.
I know.
That's what you're made for.
Milestones. Well, it's so really, revolved in life-changing moments. One of my weddings last year, I did actually teach her to drive.
Love that. So you better be at the naming ceremony.
Absolutely. I'm going to be at every big milestone in your life. So I taught her to drive. Then obviously our lives went in different directions. She knew someone that knew that I'd become a celebrant. She said, oh, we're looking for a celebrant. Oh, I know Ruth. She taught me to drive. So she called me. She said, I don't know if you remember me. I said, of course I remember you, Bianca. How are you doing? Anyway. So why did I become an independent celebrant? Well, 4 years tomorrow, to the very day, my son and daughter-in-law celebrate their wedding anniversary.
Ah, congratulations.
And they always say, thanks for reminding me, Mum, because I always send a card and it reminds them both. Well, they got married on the Gold Coast in Australia, and it was a celebrant-led ceremony.
Yeah.
I loved it. Obviously, I was biased because it was my son's wedding, but it was one of the most free, one of the most personal, and one of the most absolutely stunning wedding ceremonies I'd actually seen. Obviously, I was an emotional wreck.
Yep.
So, and I just thought, wow, how beautiful is that to be able to celebrate your love and exchange the vows you want to exchange.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about it afterwards. And I said to my son, it was just amazing that, darling, really lovely, that ceremony. He said, do you know what, Mum? I think you'd make quite a good celebrant. And I said, do you know what, son? I think you might be right.
Oh.
So I came back from their wedding ceremony, which was November 2019, and I started looking at different things and different ways to actually qualify as a celebrant.
Yeah.
And I found Civil Ceremonies, who I decided were the best trainers that I wanted to go with.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit, didn't it? In the March 20, we went into lockdown, so everything sort of went into a little bit of meltdown. So I started doing the online training throughout COVID. And then in June of 21, I actually... was able to get on my residential course. That was a week, the most intense week of my life.
Was it?
Oh my God, it was so intense.
Oh, really?
We worked from 9 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. This is your situation. This is the write us a ceremony, do this, do that, come up with this scenario. Oh, it was so difficult, but one of the most stimulating and most amazing weeks of my life. And I met a bunch of other people that we were obviously all training together, and I'm still in contact with 8 of them.
Brilliant.
So, and I found out a few days after finishing the residential course that I'd qualified, that I had my diploma in couples and family ceremonies. So from there on in, I just started building the business. I didn't know anything about social media. I had Instagram, but I didn't really know what Instagram did. I only used it occasionally for personal usage. And,
you had a few posts.
So I thought I'd better find someone that knows what to do with it. Once again, that funny little place over at Long Melford came in handy. Yeah, funny. And just built and built and built my business from there, really.
Yeah. I always tell, I did a Reels workshop on Saturday, actually, and she does very different but similar in that she's a voice coach. So I did use you as an example, and I was like, and we were going through Reels, and I said, look, there's all different types of Reels. I said, and Ruth will tell you, she will never do what I do on a reel because we're so different. I said, but I said, you need to use your voice, and that's what. So we were stalking you on Saturday. I was like, look, this is
my ears were burning Saturday.
This is what Ruth's doing. So and I always say that I said we went through, and you, hand on heart, said exactly the same. Don't know much about Instagram, don't know what to do. I said we went through a list of like do's and don'ts, and then right, okay, what would work best for you? Obviously, you kind of can't do voiceovers because that defeats the object of what you do in real life. And then we just went through your videos, and I went, she's grown from there, and now she's a TV star and everything. So you don't know where it's going to take you.
No, you don't know where it's going to take you. And I do think that, you know, main thing that you said to me when we were training on social media is be yourself.
Yeah.
Because people do buy from people. It's a well-used phrase, but it's 100% correct. So that's what I do. I do a little story beforehand. Hi, I've got to the venue and today I'm going to be conducting the wedding ceremony for X and X. And this is where we are, but I can't show you all the pictures, so I might just give a little snippet. Then I do a ceremony ready shot where I've always got a little pose with a little leg flick. And then I do an after ceremony reel. And I always get the timings wrong. Never quite know how long I can gabble on for. But so many people say to me, oh, I love looking forward to a Saturday to see what you're going to wear, and where you're going to be, and what you're going to tell us about that couple's ceremony. And so I've got into a little bit of a rhythm with it now that I know what I'm doing. And my husband David comes with me to every ceremony, and we've got a little checklist which you told me to make, a little checklist, and he'll go through and he'll say, oh, we haven't done our after ceremony reel yet. I found a great spot for it.
I said that on Saturday. I went, her husband goes, and now he's on the lookout for great spots. He's like, right, we're going to film over here.
And we've even got one of these little sticks now that he holds the camera out at the end so we don't hear all these, oh, no. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yeah.
And no, so it's worked out really well. And I can't tell you that be authentic, be yourself, how that pays off.
Yeah.
Because I have had 2 or 3 bookings purely from what people have seen on my Instagram.
Yeah.
They've then called me, they've engaged with me on Instagram, they've then called me and I've said, shall we meet? Do you want to meet up or do you want to have a Zoom? No, I know who you are because I've seen you on Instagram.
Yeah.
And so it pays off 100% just to be yourself.
Yeah,
really
I think
does.
that it's that, and now you've got that consistency of what you post, because people will, as you say, they look forward to it. They look forward to knowing, oh, where's she been today? What venue's she been at? And also, you'll be giving people ideas of you telling little snippets about that wedding, of people be like, oh, maybe I could do that. Oh, that's a good idea. Or that's very us, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So it's then that what people go on Instagram for inspiration, and that's what you're giving as well. It's that inspiration of just like, oh, I could have a celebrant, and look at that background, or look at how she's done that. And
absolutely.
yeah, and it's that extras,
and they get the ideas maybe from just little snippets that I give, but then that's the beauty of getting to know a couple for so long, because during our conversations they might say something and I think, oh, we could include that in their ceremony, and it brings that extra moment. And a great example of that was Jack and Charlotte. We were talking for months before their wedding day, and we were starting planning, and sometimes just chatting is planning, because they come up with ideas. And Jack had lost his father, unfortunately, and Charlotte's granddad was no longer with us, and they said, you know what, Ruth, if they would have loved to have been there on the day, because they'd have been the first to toast us to a long life together. And I said, well, they're not there to toast you, so why don't you toast them? And they said, can we have alcohol in our ceremony then? So I said, of course you can. The more the better, as far as I'm concerned. So what we did, they exchanged their vows and they exchanged their wedding rings, and then I wrote a little toast for them for the people that couldn't be with us. And Jack's dad had liked gin and tonic, and Charlotte's granddad had liked whiskey sours. So she had one of her granddad's glasses and he had one of his dad's gin and tonic glasses, and they were there on the signing table. And just when they exchanged their vows, we then made a toast to those that couldn't be with us, specifically these 2 men, and they raised their glasses upwards. We were outside and they raised their glasses upwards, and Jack didn't finish all of his drink. And Jack's sister was sitting in the front row, and she said, go on, Jack, finish it. You know Dad would have done. And so that was beautiful for me, because I looked at Jack's sister and I thought, the memory of your dad is right here. He's right in this ceremony. He's with us now.
Oh God, you can make me well up.
It was gorgeous.
And that's the essence of what you want to bring to the ceremony as well. Because
everything,
I think I've heard that before about toasting. It's normally after the reception, isn't it, of the people that aren't there, and that's lovely to celebrate with. But actually, to be there at your wedding.
When you've just exchanged your vows, you've just made the
Yeah.
biggest promises to each other you're ever going to make. You've then got those wedding rings on your finger, and the next thing you do is toast ones that you wished were just there with you at that moment.
Yeah, and it's for it's for the guests as well as you say, for his sister and everyone, all the other family.
If you think that's heart-rending,
Oh,
there was another one. This was...
Who need the tissue? Get
your tissue
I
boxes
mean,
out.
I've got a heart of stone. It's not easy to get into this.
There was Jack and Maria's wedding at Priory Hall, which I now, fortunately, have been asked to be a recommended celebrant for. So, yeah.
Amazing.
This
Well done.
ceremony was beautiful. It was in this, obviously, within the Priory Hall itself. And both their fathers couldn't be with us. They weren't with us anymore. And they had on the table memories. One of them had their dad's favourite jumper, and there was other memories from the other dad. And it was outside. There were lots of butterflies and obviously things flying around. Anyway, as the ceremony started, 2 butterflies made their way into the ceremony room. They were fluttering around the whole time. And just as I was about to do the closing words for the ceremony, I said, Jack and Maria, we wish you so much love and happiness. And these 2 butterflies floated down in between Jack and Maria. So I said, we wish you so much love, happiness and butterflies for the rest of your life.
Oh, gosh.
And
I believe in all of that.
we just looked at each other, and afterwards...
I hope the photographer got that.
I'm sure, yes. He just said they were there, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were there, and they
100%.
made themselves known and came down in between them. We just couldn't believe
That's
it.
amazing.
Yeah, that was an absolutely beautiful moment, just as we closed their ceremony.
Oh, gosh. Well,
So
you
it's
can't
all-
even order or plan that.
I was going to say, I can't order butterflies to...
I was going to say, right.
Butterflies on order,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Trained butterflies,
Yeah.
just to flutter at the right moment. But I
No
can
one
make
wants
the
white doves
ceremony.
anymore. Everyone wants butterflies.
So I can't promise to personalise your ceremony that much. That's left to fate. But no, highly personalised ceremonies for all my couples.
That's just amazing. So obviously you've said about attracting your ideal clients, and it does. That's what I can't. You're right. It's hard to get across to someone because, especially when you're doing social media, people don't like to niche down in some ways. But I'm like, that's the best thing you can do. And also, like you say, just be yourself, because you do then attract like-minded people. You attract your tribe. People are just going to come to you. And we did another episode on it about attracting the right people, and and when you first start a business, it's very much like, who's your customer? Everyone. I want to work with everyone. Trust me, you do not want to work with everybody. Through experience, we can tell within 5-10 minutes now of just like, but it might be that they're just not our people, and that's where I've recommended. And I don't know. I know you're all close. I love the celebrant world because you're all. There's no competition.
No.
It's all collaboration, and I don't know if it's the same, but I would recommend, if it's a client that I know, do you know what, I'm not going to do my best for you, or we're not the same sort of people. However, this person could help you.
Would suit you better.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Do you do that in celebrants as well?
Well, I don't do it with couples so much.
But I suppose
because
you're attracting the right ones, so you never
this
get
is
someone
it.
where you're like...
No, I have to be honest and say that I've never had a couple that have come to me, or a family wanting to celebrate any other milestone, and thought, oh God, I can't see myself working with that couple.
No.
I just can't see it, because
So
every
your
couple,
marketing's on point, look.
do you know?
Yes.
And that's it. When I come down from a discovery call, somebody that wants to have a chat about my services, which I always offer on a completely no obligation basis, and I come down, I say to my husband, oh, I hope they book me. They're a lovely couple. And David says, but you always say that because you only have lovely couples, Ruth. And I said, yeah, I suppose that is true. And that is genuine, that every couple that I do a discovery call with, I hope they do book me because, you know, I always tend to find something in common with them, asking them so many questions about their life, where they're living, what they're doing, what they want from their ceremony or how they want to celebrate. And there's generally something I say, oh, that's a coincidence because I've been there I know that or I was there.
Yeah.
And so, I do obviously give, if I'm already booked, then I do pass on to, I've got a little group of people that I pass on to. And I often am asked, do I do funerals? And at the moment, I don't do funerals. I don't know whether I ever will, but at the moment, I don't do funerals. So I know friends that do that, and I've passed on.
Is there any reason or why?
Time for me at the moment, time. And the training course that I chose to take to become a celebrant was incredibly intensive. And I know that the same company does offer funeral training, and it's the intensity of the course as well. And I would have to devote a lot of time to that. And at the moment, I'm loving what I'm doing and don't feel the need to do anything extra. But if I wasn't
if you're talking
enjoying,
about 25 already, then
this is it. This is it. So I don't do those.
I can't even. I could never do that. I couldn't talk. I said to yourself and to Heather, we had humanists at both my dads and stepdads, and I gave them my word. They came round, met us once, just once, took my words, and they said, do you want to read it? I can't read it. And the problem being, and I nearly said when you said, they did a whiskey sour and a gin and tonic, I was like, oh God, I'd have to stand there and smoke a Benson and Hedges. Because it was T and B and H. But so my chat actually needed a tone behind it, but there was no tone behind it. And that's the only thing I'd say about the funeral, was just like, it made me sound like a bit of a horrible kid, really, because they just didn't get my tone and my sense of humour behind it. And I remember listening at the time, gutted, and because it's like my stepdad, when the day we met, my rabbit died. So I was 9. I went out, and of course you're like, oh, nice to meet you. Mum's like, oh God, she's meeting like the stepdad or future stepdad. I'm like, oh, come and see Tufty. Oh, Tufty's not moving.
Oh no.
So the day I met my future stepdad,
as well.
We were I better not, I don't know if it's legal where we buried him, so I was going to say like where we ended up digging a hole down the road.
Well, it was a bonding session, wasn't it?
Exactly. And that's how I said it. However, it was said in such this monotone thing. I think everyone was like, oh God, she's talking about
Honey boiler.
Luckily, because of his sense of humour and everyone in the room, I mean, it was standing room only, everyone knew. But you know, when you're just like, and that was the thing, and I think that's my biggest thing about an example I give is just that the difference to a celebrant, the time you take to get to know everybody. And I mean, that was one of my questions, who do you work with? And it's like, well, lovely couples. But actually it's just the whole day. I just say, when people ask, what do you do? I say, I spend all day talking about love and celebrating love. Love that.
And that is the essence of what I do, really. And as I say, couples, I can genuinely, hand on heart, say that I've never got to the end of a wedding ceremony and thought, well, thank goodness that one's over, you know, because I was working with a bridezilla or something. I haven't come across that. You get wedding nerves, but then that's my work and my job to calm those nerves. Because as soon as I get to a wedding venue on the day, I go and hunt out whoever it is that's getting ready there, the groom or the bride, or if it's whoever is going to be getting ready there. And I go in and I meet the bridal party and I say, hi, I'll be the person standing at the end of the aisle there. Walk towards me, just take it nice and slowly, and I'll guide you from there. And I give my groom a big hug, I give my bride a big hug, and then I just say, I'll be there for you. Don't worry. I'm at the end of the hour. And it just calms the nerves of everybody that's getting ready. And just say, don't worry, we're going to have the time of our lives. And when I talked to the bridal party, I said, don't rush. This is a really big moment for you as well.
Yeah.
Take your time. I want you to enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
So, I finish every wedding ceremony and I think to myself, I don't really want to go. But sometimes I don't. I get invited to stay more times than you can believe. I get invited to stay, which is lovely.
You've developed such a relationship with them, haven't you?
You've really developed a lovely
relationship. And you've asked questions that probably no one's ever asked them before as well.
No.
So it's the things you know. It's on the I'm going down a dark path with death, funerals and now breaking up, but it's like when couples break up, everyone's got an opinion. It's like, but you can't have an opinion because unless you live in that house 24/7, you don't know what's gone on behind closed doors. So you're probably the closest person to ask actually what does go on behind closed doors. Those 18 questions aren't going to be like, oh, why'd you like him?
What's your favourite colour?
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
what sofa did you choose together?
To expand on that, I say to every time I send it out to my couples, I say that, give me as much information as you can, because the more information you give me, then the more personal I can make your ceremony. But there may be little snippets of information that are for my eyes only, that give me background.
Yes.
So I can be more empathetic on the day maybe, or I can have more empathy when I'm writing the script.
Yeah.
So tell me what you want, anything you want to tell me, but tell me if you want me to include it in the script.
Yeah.
But, even if I've overshared, if I've overshared certain bits of information, my couples get a draft copy of the script.
Yeah.
So they go through the draft and we go through that together and we'll redraft as many times as it takes so that they are 100% happy with the script.
No one else does that for weddings. No one else does that.
No.
Which is such a big day. It sounds weird not to now.
Not to have planned that part. You think you plan every single element of your wedding day down to the finest detail. Some couples will say about their wedding cake, but I want this particular colour petal on here, I want that particular, or, the thought process that goes into choosing the flowers and everything that go along with it. And to not put that thought into your ceremony is criminal, really, because, it's the part of the day that should set the vibe, set the tone for the day. And so that's why I put so much work and so much energy and love into creating for the couple a completely personalised ceremony. So
we should have started 9 years ago. But we did, because our reception was in our garden. So we got married at the ball and then had registrar and then the reception in the garden. But the reception was very much... we'd had our house for years, so we didn't need anything for the house.
No.
So we didn't want gifts. But I wanted all my friends and family to be involved. So I had one friend did the cake. That was her gift
lovely.
to me. Another one did the hog roast. We converted the shed to the bar, and we worked at a brewery at the time. So we had Ben's favourite beer on tap. So there was all different things that everyone had been involved
Contributed.
in. Yeah, my mum got, we had a band. So my mum, a friend of hers that she knew, so she had organised the band. That was her gift. So everyone was involved in the reception, and it was just, it was just brilliant.
Well, involving your guests is the way to actually completely make your marriage, the celebration of your marriage, the biggest day of your life, because the more guests feel involved in the ceremony and in the preparation, then the more engaged they're going to be and the more supportive, because they've been there. And that's why I always love to include guests in the ceremony, as many as possible, whether that be in the capacity as a reader, or it might be taking part in maybe one of the unity ceremonies that I can offer into the ceremony. One of the most popular, I'd say, at the moment, unity ceremony is a hand tying, where I wrap ribbons around the couple's hands in such a way that as they then pull their hands apart, a knot is tied in the middle. So symbolically and visually, everybody has seen, yay, we saw them tie the knot. And a lovely, lovely way to include family members or friends in this is to teach them before the ceremony how to lay those ribbons. And I'll do that. And then, say, for example, again, you might have the two mums, one laying a ribbon for one family and one laying a ribbon for the other. So as the knot is tied, they're there in that knot. And
oh gosh,
it is.
So many lovely things.
Well, it's endless, really, what you can offer to a couple. One of the I've got a huge library of different examples of poems and readings that people can have. But what really touches my heart is twice this year I've had guests that have written a poem specifically for the couple.
I love that.
And then they've stood there and read their poem to their friends on their wedding day. And that has been a real tearjerker for me,
I bet.
even though I've read it, because the couple haven't known the words. So they've waited until that moment to hear it. And then when I see the couple's reaction to the beautiful words that their friend has written for them on their day, and that's a real tearjerker for me.
Have you cried at a wedding?
Oh, absolutely.
Love that.
I'm an emotional person anyway. I am a really emotional person. And although I desensitise myself to certain wording, I'm only human. So I get caught up in the moment as well. And one particular time was a wedding this year at Leeds Priory, and it was for Heather and Martin. And I knew their backstory, and Heather and Martin, won't mind me saying, but they're into their 60s, same as me, and they found love again later in life. And I knew what the moment meant as she was coming down the aisle. And I don't know if you've ever been to Leeds Priory, but it's a huge, long walk. Anyway, she started the walk and there was a string quartet playing. And just as Heather came out of this beautiful big oak door, the sun came out. And I saw Martin's shoulders.
There's a lot of tingly moments with you, isn't there? Butterflies, the sun appearing.
Yeah, it was this, I'm well organised. I get the sun and butterflies on cue. And I saw Martin's shoulders begin to shake, and the music, the warmth of the sun, as Heather walked towards him, I saw her lock eyes to him, and the tears were coming out the side of my eyes here, coming down the side of my face. And in that moment, I thought, get a grip, Ruth, because in a minute, everyone's going to be looking to you to start this
It could be this blubbering mess. Photographer's going to be like,
what a mess that woman looked. So I let them have their moment. I dabbed my eyes, and while they were having a moment, I stepped forward and I said, it's okay, everybody, you know that when the celebrant starts to cry, you know it's perfectly okay. You can all, that's your cue, you can all start to cry as well. So I do. I get totally wrapped up in the moment. You can't help it. You know, as you say, I've invested a lot of time with these couples, and this is all their hard work. This is all the spreadsheets. This is all the planning. This is everything coming to fruition. And to know that it is exactly what they wanted in that moment, then for me, that is job done. And it's emotional. You can't help but. I think you'd be quite a cold-hearted person even if you didn't get emotionally attached or,
No.
Touched by the emotion of the day.
Or you're doing the job for a very different reason.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But this is why I keep telling all my friends they've got to do vow renewals. Because I'm like, I want to hear all about it. So what would you say your biggest success to date is? Because it must feel like every wedding's a success.
Do you know what? I wanted to say that. I just seriously did just want to say that, but I thought it might sound a bit twee or a bit too...
No, because it's not...
It is. It's a success. Because all the weddings that I've done this year, apart from a couple that came quite last minute, I've worked and I've got to know them over the previous year. And so it's almost like I'm marrying friends. I'm not marrying them, obviously. I'm celebrating the marriage of friends. So when I finish the ceremony, and I always have a glass of Prosecco with them and enjoy a little celebratory drink, which is also the huge benefit of having my husband take me, because if that one glass...
that's why he takes you.
He's only there as my PA and my chauffeur.
Has he got a cap?
Well, that's a private story. But...
Brilliant.
If that one glass turns into two, then fair enough, he can drive me home. But no, I can genuinely say that every ceremony for me is a little success, because it's given the couple what they want. And this isn't my ego speaking, it's just saying things as they are. It's a success to me because so many guests afterwards come up and they'll seek me out and they'll tap me on the shoulder and they'll say, I just want to tell you, that was amazing. That was the most beautiful ceremony I've ever been a part of. And when they say to me, I've been a part of, my heart loops the loop because I think, ka-ching, they actually felt involved in this ceremony. And then I feel that I've given a good stepping stone for the next part of the day, because everyone's not sitting there thinking, oh, when's the drinks coming out, when we're finishing?
Yeah, we're going to get food
soon.
soon.
That lovely after ceremony glow, as it were, saying, oh, that was fantastic, that was gorgeous, I love this little part. In fact, one wedding ceremony at Tuffin Hall this year, at the Vineyard, I did a hand tying there, and after that ceremony I must have had 6 or 7 guests standing around me asking about the hand tying.
Really?
What was the history behind that in depth? I'd obviously explained it a little bit during the ceremony, but I then went into a little bit more depth, and they were fascinated as to the symbolism that was then involved in that ceremony. And that's
a
to
whole
me
reel
is a
and
success.
a blog post, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. But they've invested in it, haven't they?
Yeah,
so
they
for them
sought
to come
me out
up and
afterwards
ask,
to come and ask, why did you do that? That was so beautiful. We've never seen it done before. Can you explain a little bit more? And to think that I was then standing at the celebratory drinks afterwards with like 7 or 8 people standing around me, explaining something I'd just done in a ceremony, to me, that was a success. Yeah. Because the guests wanted to know more about it.
Yeah, and it's not just a tick box, okay, off we go, and it's done. So, yeah. But on your business head on, for thinking it as your own business, what would you say? Because you've won some awards.
Yes, and I have to say never was my flabber so gasted as and that wasn't my line, that was Ian's line from his speech at his renewal of vows recently, and I said I like that, Ian, you're going to hear that a lot from me. Never was my flabber so gasted. Yes, within my very first year of being celebrant, I did my first ceremony in 2022, and in October of 2022 we had the Association of Independent Celebrants conference, and in the evening it was the awards ceremony. Well, I'd been nominated by a beautiful celebrant that lives up in Newcastle. She nominated me, and then it must have gone a little bit crazy with nominations, and I attended the conference and I attended the awards ceremony, not in million years thinking that I was going to win it, because I was a relatively new celebrant. And we sat down and they started explaining why this particular celebrant was going to be, given the award of Celebrant of the Year. And I thought, oh, I like the sound of this person, I must follow them on Instagram.
Brilliant. Classic.
I'll get some hints and tips.
Well, there you go.
And they said, so Celebrant of the Year 2022 goes to Ruth Sailsbury-Higgs. Well, I couldn't move. And this is genuine. For once in my entire life, Farley, I was speechless. And I sat with my hands in my face and my husband sitting next to me as if England had just won the World Cup at rugby, going, yes, 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 yes. And I got up and I walked in a daze up to get the award. And I didn't know what to say. I just didn't know what to say, because I genuinely didn't think I was going to win it. And I just turned around and I said, thank you. And the president of the association came up to me afterwards and she said, Ruth, that was the most authentic acceptance speech we've ever had, as being someone being shocked, because you genuinely didn't think you were going to win it. And I didn't. So I was super proud in my first year to actually win that award.
That's amazing.
It was. And the next morning at breakfast, one of the speakers at the conference during the day, she came over to David and she said, if ever there was a award as to how a husband should react when his wife wins an award, you got my award for that, she said, because that was so supportive. And I was genuinely flabbergasted to win it. I really was.
Yeah.
But it was a huge recognition from the association, because it's the largest trading body of independent celebrants in the UK.
Wow.
So to get that recognition in my first year was, for me, mind-blowing. Yeah. And to be able to say, you're an award-winning celebrant has got such kudos.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that was huge for me. It really was.
Oh, so you've gone from October 22 to winning an award to October 23 becoming a celebrity.
Well, yes, there's just, there's just a little thing of Married at First Sight.
Have you heard of it?
Only 2 million people watch each episode.
Is it really 2 million people?
About 2 million people watch each episode.
I'm so not down with live TV anymore. I have to hold my hands up. I'm one of those people that it's recorded or Netflix or Disney or something. But so what was the process? How did that come about?
Well, that was really bizarre, because I am a super fan, always have been. My daughter-in-law, my Australian daughter-in-law, she put me onto it, and I've watched every back episode of Maths Australia, and I've always been invested in the programme. So around about 7:00 one evening, the phone went and somebody said, "Hello, Ruth, I'm a casting producer for a television programme." And I thought, oh, right, who's this winding me up?
Yeah.
So I said, oh, yeah, and what's the name of the programme? Thinking, what's the scam that's coming?
Yeah.
Send us £200 and we'll put your name for it.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, yeah, so what would be the name of the programme? She said, it's Married at First Sight. And I said, oh, really?
You're funny.
Because, this happens every day.
Yeah.
So I said, oh, really? And she went on to it and said, no, look, before you carry on, who is this winding me up? And she said, no, seriously, Ruth, I am from. And I said, oh, my goodness. I am an absolute super fan of the show. She said, are you? That's even better. So she said, well, before we can continue the conversation, I need to send you an NDA. Yeah. So I said, okay. And then I thought, all right, this is where the spam will happen, because she'll probably send me an NDA. I'll send it back to a link and then I'll find I'm hacked or something. Yeah. So I was really, really careful. Oh, yeah. I got the NDA. So she called back and she said, okay, we've got your NDA. We can talk a little bit more. And I said, okay. So
this is real.
Yeah, honestly, I did. Is this real? So we had that conversation and she told me a little bit more about it. I said, well, how did you find out about me then? She said, well, we've seen your website, we've looked on the internet, we've seen your social media. And I said, really? That's interesting.
We do training courses for just websites and social media to get you on Married at First Sight. That is my brand new tagline for Breakout.
So she said the next step will be an interview with the next casting stage up, casting producers or whatever they call themselves. So I then had a Zoom meeting one evening with her and the next her manager, and we chatted. And I think they could actually tell that obviously I was a genuine Married at First Sight fan, because I could talk about all the couples and everything.
And you get invested into how they're matched, don't you? I think you said before.
Yeah, I find it incredible, because they've got experts that match them together. And these are couples where, obviously, especially I think maybe on this current series, a lot of their just for the fame of it sometimes, but people are there genuinely looking for love. Yeah. And the experts say, well, this is what you've normally done, this is your type you've normally gone for, but this actually is the type of person that would suit you. Yeah. And I do get invested in the experiment side of it. I love to watch, well, why were those couple matched together? Yeah. So
and it's interesting. So obviously I've watched, and we'll come on to why the algorithms pick this up, because they Married at First Sight's come up on my Instagram. And then last night, I don't know if you remember, did you used to watch Blind Date?
Yes.
Everyone used to watch Blind Date.
Absolutely.
Do you remember the clip came up of when Scylla said to whatever her name was, Jenny or whatever, Jenny, you're not actually here for the blind date, are you? You're a journalist from Cosmopolitan or whatever it was, women's mag. And I was like, the algorithm's done that because of Ruth. That's Ruth on there. Yeah, and it was this big, and I remember watching it on live
Yes.
TV and it coming
They
up.
called her out on it, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they did. She got her little like bit of paper and
Yeah.
she was, so.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
So after the interview, the Zoom interview, I had to wait 2 weeks. And then they called me up and they say, well, Ruth, we'd really love for you to be part of the show. And I, oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. And then another NDA came. So I had to be really careful who I told.
How did you not tell anyone?
Oh, I'm very good at keeping secrets. I mean, because remember, it's part of my work. I mustn't let out what one couple's going to say to the other. But, I was bursting. I was bursting to tell. They actually said, you can tell your husband, because obviously you're going off for the day. You need to be able to tell him where you are. So I told David, and I did tell my daughter, because obviously she's a huge maths fan as well. Yeah. So I'm not going to lie, I did tell my daughter, as I tried to get her work on it, because she's a makeup artist. I said, I have this one makeup artist that always does my makeup for every ceremony. Can I bring her along on the day? Thinking I could get Megan in on the maths work. And they said, no, sorry, it's a closed set. The only makeup artist is for the bride or the groom.
Yeah, they're all signed away.
They all signed NDAs. I said, but she always does my work for me. And I thought, no, don't push your luck, Ruth. They might say, oh no, she's a bit diva-ish. She
brings her entourage.
So, and then they told me where they wanted me to be, and the very first place they wanted me to be was actually the one at Headingham Castle. But I was actually due to be going to Australia for my grandson's first birthday. And I said, I'm so sorry, I can't do that date. I'm on nanny duties. I want to, obviously we've got my flight booked. I said, does that mean I can't be in the show? And they said, no, we'll swap some things around. So I actually then managed to get the one over at Hatfield Place with Portia and Terence. So it was just so exciting. But I was busting a gut to tell everybody. Yeah. I had to, once I filmed it, and I knew it wasn't coming out until August, September time, they said, I had to basically put it to the back of my head. Yeah. It was something I'd done. Yeah. I couldn't share anything.
How far in advance did you record it?
March.
Oh,
we recorded in March this year.
6 months.
Yeah, so I had to keep it completely quiet. So that's why I had to say, I had to put it to the back of my mind. Yeah. I've done it. It's something to be shared later. Yeah. And then I wrote to them, CPL Productions, saying, do we know yet when it's coming out? And they said, well, this is the longest experiment they've ever done. So they didn't have a date. Even the production team didn't have a date for it to be aired. But then when it was, I got an email to say, you're in episode 5 and we'll be coming out on whatever night it was. Yeah. So, So it was so exciting.
Oh, would you do it again?
Oh, 100% I'd do it again. Yeah. 100% I would do it again. And unless I did anything really wrong, there is no reason why I shouldn't get asked back. Yeah. Because the celebrants that they've used in previous years, that's their 3rd year that they've done it this year. So it could become something. It could be a regular. Yeah, it could be a regular maths darling, Reverend Maths.
The fabulous maths celebrant.
But it was such fun, because I never ever thought that. I mean, obviously, I'm not completely over the hill, but I never thought that at this time in my life, when I'm officially now drawing my state pension, that I would be having the time of my life. Yeah. Often you think to yourself, you start slowing down. I'm speeding up. Yeah. And just living and taking every single opportunity that this life that I've chosen is offering me. Yeah. And who would have thought that at 66 I'd be dressed in a pink fuchsia suit and being on national television? I never in a million years would have thought of it. I wouldn't have done. And every time something different happens, my son and daughter go, of course, Mum. Yeah. Of course, yeah.
They know.
And my son just looks down the Zoom camera and he goes, Mum, it's just awesome, Mum. It's just absolutely awesome. And I go, oh, thank you, son. And now this is happening. And he goes, I know. Well, why not? Yeah. Why wouldn't it be?
Why wouldn't it?
And it is just so brilliant to know that you're just living your best life. Yeah. Because none of us know what's around the corner for any of us, do we? So you just got to grab every opportunity. So whatever comes from whatever decision I make in the future, I'm just saying, yes, let's give it a go.
Yeah, see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I love that. But on the flip side of that, what's your biggest challenge or learning at the moment that's going on?
Biggest challenge at the moment, professionally, I would say, is getting marriage law reform changed. Because there is, well, as I said earlier on in our chat, that it's only a registrar or a religious minister that can actually perform the legal aspect of the marriage. Now, there is huge root and branch change coming, we hope, to marriage law, because marriage law in this country, in England and Wales, is archaic. It really is. And it doesn't give couples choice as to where or how they can marry. And so there has been a Law Commission report that started way back in 2013. The consultation process started. And they have now put together 57 recommendations and put their whole proposal to the government. Now, I know the government's got a lot on their plate at the moment.
They've always got a lot on their plate.
Every government does, always. But we should have received their initial response to that in January of this year. And we should have received a more concrete response to these proposals in July. We haven't even yet received their initial responses, and we're now at nearly the end of October. So that is our biggest challenge as celebrants at the moment, as independent celebrants, and to a certain extent in England and Wales, humanist celebrants, is to push our MPs for this, at least a response to this reform. And it's very, very important now that myself as a celebrant and all other independent and humanist celebrants push their MPs to at least get it in the manifesto, because obviously we've got a general election coming up sometime next year, and it's very important that if it's not in each party's manifesto, that is the right way of saying it, isn't it?
I think so.
For the next general election, there's very little chance of it becoming law in the next body of the next parliament.
Oh my word, that's
which
crazy.
Which would be absolutely tragic for couples, because at the moment, when a couple want to get married with me, as I say, they have to go and do the legal paperwork first. And they have to go to a particular building. And if they want to have the registrar come to and do that legal aspect of their wedding in their venue, then they have to pay quite a substantial amount of money. And it has to be a venue that is licensed by the council to be able to conduct weddings. So we have what's called a buildings-based system at the moment. It's the place that is licensed. And the marriage law reform will hopefully become an officiant-based system. So wherever I am would be
where you can get married.
And I would be able to incorporate the words that the civil registrar at the moment has to hear. I'll be able to incorporate those into the ceremony, and as long as I've heard them, then that marriage then is a legal entity. So that it actually saves the couple money, saves them going through two different procedures. And it means that they can then choose to have their marriage wherever they want to have their marriage. And, you know, it just gives couples so much freedom and so much choice. Because if you don't know about a celebrant and you don't know of the possibilities, all you think your only choice at the moment is to have a registrar or a religious ceremony. Whereas when the law changes, you'll be able to have whatever you want, whenever you want. But, you know, it's going to be a rather long process to get the law changed, because even if we get really positive responses from government, the law hasn't yet been written. But we mustn't look at what hasn't been done. We've got to look at what can be done. And there's need for reform in this country so that the couple's wedding day reflects them as a couple and reflects their choices. It's one of the most important things that a couple will ever do, really.
How does that affect, because you can now have, you've got the commitment ceremonies and you can have, and excuse my ignorance, you can have a gay marriage. But will this law reform help that further as well?
No, it'll help all couples.
It'll be everybody.
It'll be everybody. And, you know, you may have, at the moment, if a building isn't registered to have a marriage, then the marriage that ostensibly takes place in that building is not a legal wedding.
Right, okay.
Whereas once the law is changed and the officiant has been registered to conduct marriage, then that marriage will be legal.
Yeah.
So we would move away completely from the place where the couple want to get married to me being able to conduct the ceremony.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, you see, I very briefly touched on humanist celebrants and independent celebrants. Humanist celebrants can actually conduct legal wedding ceremonies in Scotland, Northern Ireland, Jersey and Guernsey at the moment. They can't in England and Wales because there's all law reform that we've had since 1949 has been completely piecemeal.
Right.
So there's little bits of the puzzle being clicked in, and there's still huge bits to make the puzzle complete. And that is because humanism has been recognised, especially in Scotland, as a belief structure all of its own. Yeah. So it's been made legal that humanist celebrants can conduct wedding ceremonies there. Whereas for independent celebrants all over the United Kingdom, we can't, because we don't have a belief structure, because we are, we're independent. Yeah. So we include all beliefs within our ceremonies. So, I've lost my track a little bit there as to where we're going.
Why you became independent rather than a humanist?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yes, because I don't have a humanist belief. That's not my belief. I don't. It's not about when I conduct a wedding ceremony. It's not about any religious beliefs that I may or may not hold. And within my ceremonies, I can actually therefore include any spiritual, cultural, or any religious elements that my couple or families want me to include within my ceremonies, because I am independent, which gives me carte blanche to include what my couples want.
Yeah, because I think that was my issue. I had a reading that I wanted at one of the funerals, but I couldn't have it because it mentioned God.
Absolutely, because you see, humanism, and if people want to look at their website, it will explain exactly what it is. I'm not going to profess to be an expert in that. That's a different, way of life. But they technically, I suppose, should only really conduct ceremonies for people that also have that belief. Yeah. But I can include within my ceremonies anything that my couples want me to do. For and my family's, a very brief example of that was I did a naming and welcoming ceremony right at the beginning of last year, and it was in a gorgeous non-consecrated chapel in London, Fitzrovia Chapel. Gold everywhere, beautiful, stunning place. And one of the guide parents, she actually said to me after the ceremony, well, I've got my son's christening coming up in a couple of months. She said it's going to have to go some to beat that for inclusivity. So I said, well, you can always book me to have a little naming ceremony afterwards. Anyway, a few weeks later, she called me and she said, Ruth, I've cancelled the christening. And I said, wow. She said, yes, it was not what I wanted, although she had her own religious beliefs. It wasn't what I wanted to welcome my son in the world. I didn't think it, it welcomed him in the way I wanted to. She said, so can we work together to create a naming and welcoming for my son, but can you include into it any religious elements that I want? I said, I certainly can. I said, not necessarily me reading the scriptures, but she had lots of people, family members, that she wanted to include that. So I wrote for her a naming and welcoming ceremony, and she told me what she wanted included in it, the wording, and who she wanted to step forward and read the scripture, who she wanted. So she had the complete mixture of everything she wanted. She had the religious element within her ceremony, and she had the naming and the welcoming of her baby, and it gave her exactly what she wanted to welcome her baby into her community.
Yeah, absolutely perfect.
It was perfect for her. So so that's why I am an independent celebrant, and I don't hang my coat on any particular hook any particular belief structure.
Well, it just gives the variety as well.
Completely.
And especially if you've got a couple or two parents that have got different beliefs as well, which you get that. It's so common now.
It is.
To get people from all walks of life
Yeah.
that actually if they can have what that family's beliefs are and that family's beliefs are and
this
have
is
that
why
all
marriage law
included.
reform is needed, because, you know, couples want... in life now, we have so much choice, don't we?
Yeah.
We've got choice everywhere. And to be restricted over where and who can conduct one of the most important ceremonies of your life isn't right.
Yeah.
Couples want choice, and therefore we need huge reform in our wedding and our marriage laws.
And would you
Huge
say
reform.
that's your biggest challenge at the moment?
Yes,
in the
I would say
business?
that is the biggest challenge for all celebrants at the moment, because I meet couples at wedding fairs, or I meet them, they find me and we start chatting, and I say, now we can do all this.
Yeah.
We can have this in your ceremony. We can have that. We can celebrate this way. However, before we can do that, you've got to go and you've got to, you know, organise another. You've got to organise the booking and getting the simple 2x2 ceremony is not always the easiest thing to find on the websites of the registration office. But I know where those links are, and I find them and I send them to my couples. Then you have to do, obviously, you have to give notice. So there's a whole admin element to getting married, that if marriage law reform does happen, I can do all that for the couples, you know. I can say, well, where do you want to get married?
Yeah.
When do you want to get married? Yes, I'm free. Okay, let's go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
And it will take away from my couples the thought that they've got to do something else. Because for some couples, they don't book me when I explain that, because they say, oh, so our marriage day will be different. The day we got married will be different from the day that we celebrate our wedding.
Yeah.
And for some couples, the date is really important,
Yeah.
you know. And so they say, oh, well, we'll have the registrar come to the venue then, because it's the day that's important to us. You can have the registrar come in and then me celebrating their marriage, you know, a couple of hours later. I've done that. So that's how we've got round that issue. But it will take a whole element of admin away from couples when there's enough to organise for your wedding day, without having to then think, okay, have we done the paperwork as well? Because I can do all that for couples. So, that is, for me, at the moment, the biggest challenge too. It's just that last element, the last piece of my puzzle, if you like, that I can't offer couples. Yeah. And most couples... I say 95% of couples, it just doesn't bother at all. No. Because as I explain, you know, when you have a baby, you have to register the birth of that baby, but you don't celebrate the day that you've gone and registered the birth and made the baby legal. It's an admin thing. Yeah, you've done it. So I say the day your love is going to be celebrated is the day that you have the wedding celebration ceremony that we've worked on together. Yeah. And 99% of my couples celebrate their wedding anniversary
on that day.
Because that's the day they committed themselves to each other in front of all their families and friends, not the day they filled in. And obviously that day they do the paperwork, that is hugely important, because without that their marriage isn't a legal entity.
Exactly.
But it isn't the day they've committed their love to each other in the way that they wanted to commit their love to each other. So yes, at the moment huge marriage law reform. So James Cartledge will probably be getting a little telephone call from me again. I have had a conversation with him before, and I must say he was hugely supportive.
Is he?
Yes, he was. But now we need to know what's taking so long. Why aren't you getting back to us? And we're asking I will be speaking to each candidate that wants my vote. What are you going to do about marriage law reform? I need to speak to you. Can we get this in your manifesto? Yeah. And if all celebrants are doing the same thing, then we'll hopefully get this change moved forward. We must get it done within the next body of Parliament, however long, or whoever that's going to be.
Oh gosh, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole other podcast, isn't it?
Which I'm not the person to talk to about that.
I cannot even begin to think what's going to happen next time.
Not a clue, or not. I don't. Yeah, it was funny out. on holiday and people say, oh, this has gone on, that's gone on. I went, yeah, I don't watch the news. I just don't. I talk to people like yourself, so I know specifics of what's going on in various industries and stuff.
But you don't sit and watch the news?
No, don't. It's too depressing.
I know, it is.
It's too depressing.
It is, I know. And if you listen to any politician, they never answer a question anyway, do you? Which is a complete art form, actually, I think, not to be able to avoid answering questions as professionally as they do.
I was given media training, so I ran the marathon the year of the issues at the Boston Marathon.
Oh my God, really?
So the press came to interview us because it was through Macmillan, but we got a golden bond place through the company. So they came to interview us at the company to do a big piece on that we were all doing it.
Yeah.
And there was a few directors doing it, but they were out the business, so they were going down the chain, and bless them, they got to me. And they had to give me media training on what you can say. And it was basically, oh, what do you think of the boss? Oh, we're just concentrating on our training. We're looking forward to the today. Our thoughts are with the families and everyone affected, sort of thing. And it was that. You've just got to repeat the same answer, just in different versions,
in different ways. I know.
So you're not directly saying something that can be cut or amended
or quoted, and that you can be quoted on a year later or something.
And still, I can't remember the exact headline, but it almost read as they don't care about the attack, they're still running. And I was like,
that's not what we said.
That's not. It's that word care. You just, but that's the media, isn't it, all over? So.
Yeah, you have to be really, really careful with your words, don't you? Really careful.
Yeah.
But so that's that is my main goal now, just to make sure that we keep it in the agenda, we keep it in the political agenda.
Because it's America, isn't it? I mean, obviously my reference is Friends. If anyone can get ordained, can't they?
Can.
And marry you. It's classic line where Joey's like, I'll marry you right now if I want to.
I know. And to me, as wonderful as that is, to be able to have a friend conduct the legal aspect of your wedding ceremony, I don't want to say it trivialises it, but if anybody can do it,
too far, isn't it?
It is. It's gone that way. And at the moment, we won't, as a celebrant, I won't have to take any extra training in my celebrant aspect of life, because obviously I've got the diploma. But I will have to apply the way that I could. It's a whole other podcast, but the way it will actually apply, the recommendation is it would apply is that as an independent celebrant, I will come down on the same side as the registrar at the moment, because it's civil, whereas a humanist celebrant will come in the religious side of it because it's a belief structure. So I will have to take training in the legal aspect of the wording. The giving notice side and the administrative side that you have to go through will still remain with the registration service. So couples will register their notice of intent to marry. They will then be produced with a schedule. The schedule will be given to me, and once I've conducted the ceremony, the schedule will then go back to the registration service for entry on the big registry. So there is extra training that I'll need to take, but that is a few years down the line at the moment. I think the most important thing at the moment is the need for reform. Reform is needed for couples because of their want, rightly, for choice, and it's getting it onto the political agenda of all the parties, not just those that will then come into power, because who knows what we're going to end up with, or what collaborations we might end up with. So that's going to be my task over autumn, is finding out who's likely to be standing and just having a chat with each of them. And there's lots and lots of work going on in the background with my Association of Independent Celebrants. Our committee there are just brilliant, the way they're working on all our behalves.
That's good.
So that's my biggest challenge, I would say.
So what advice would you give to someone who wants to become a celebrant?
Do it.
Brilliant.
Just do it. Don't hesitate. just do it, because if someone is thinking of becoming a celebrant, you will never ever find more fulfilling work in your entire life. And obviously, because I have been a celebrant for a couple of years now, I've been lucky enough to win the award and had a little bit of,
celebrity,
success, as it were. I am getting different celebrants contacting me saying, what do you think? Who did you train with? And so I give the advice that I trained with civil ceremonies, and I always say, don't go anywhere else. 100%, I would say they are more expensive than anybody else.
But there's a reason.
Why they are,
It's like with anything, and you get what you pay for, don't you?
Absolutely. I only have trained with them. I don't have experience of anybody else. Someone else might have a different opinion. But I say, just do it. Take that step and do it. Because I've never ever, when I trained, I knew why I wanted to train, and when I qualified, I was thrilled, but I never ever dreamt the world it would open up for me and how much I thoroughly would enjoy it. So my advice would be, just do it.
Love that.
And if anybody wants any help, I'm more than happy to help them, guide them in the right direction.
Because it just roles like that now fascinate me. Because when I still joke now, I don't know what I want to do with my life.
When you grow up.
When I go out. And I call my friends I went to school with, that we go away every year, my sensible friends, because they have jobs like police and midwife and the jobs that when you leave school, and vet nurse and vet.
Registered and recognised careers, as it were.
Because when you leave school, and it's very much, and to some extent it will still be similar today, we've been involved in jobs fairs, which I always find fascinating, because it is, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? Do you want, and for me it was like, do you want to be a policeman, an accountant, or a dentist, or a doctor? So
professions,
whatever those,
aren't they?
exact professions. Whereas, I mean, a lot of my friends, it is standing joke. They don't know what I do. That's fine.
I do.
They're starting to learn. But it's that thing of just like, well, what? And a celebrant was never on a list anywhere. No. And it was...
Well, celebrancy has only been in the United Kingdom for probably 25 years. Yeah. It actually did start in Australia and New Zealand.
Always does.
Where, of course, where obviously that they can actually conduct the legal aspect of the wedding ceremony, the marriage there. And we're well gel of our Australian counterparts, New Zealand counterparts, because it's just so easy for them. They can do, want to get married on the beach?
Yeah.
Hey, let's go get married on the beach.
Yeah.
So celebrancy has been in this country for, around about 25 years. So it is a huge growing trend. In fact, according to Hitched, one of the biggest trends for 2024 is a celebrant-led ceremony.
Yeah, I bet.
So doesn't that just show you, and should show the government, this is what couples want? There's so many different people couples coming into the wedding industry, not wedding industry, but, looking for suppliers. And that, when I read the Hitch trends for 2024, celebrant-led ceremonies is right there at the top. And you just think, wow, sit up and listen, because honestly, MPs, you could get votes from these younger people who maybe feel a little bit disengaged from the political process.
It's a massive opportunity.
Huge.
It's the same, and I think I've said that before, it's like your social media. It's very, very easy to do your social media in terms of like teaching people what is a celebrant. And I've said to a couple of friends that are not currently engaged, but I've had that conversation, and we've then gone, well, the parents would want, and I'm just like, just look at what Ruth's doing.
Just do what you want.
At the end of the day, you can do anything. They're like, what do you mean you can do anything? And I'm just like, honestly, go follow Ruth, find out what celebrant is, and do the research. Because, that's the biggest with my business marketing hat on, is people then, you have become the go-to of finding out more about celebrancy.
That's right.
I keep saying celebrancy instead of... Right.
No, well, it is in a way. It is celebrancy. Obviously it's a new profession. We've got new adjectives and new ways to describe us. But when you know that it is the biggest trend in the wedding industry for 2024, that just goes to show the possibilities are there for any MP that picks up on this and thinks, right, that we really need to get behind this change. Let's find out why that's the biggest thing that we want to know as an association at the moment.
Yeah.
Why is it taking you 10 months to come back with an initial response?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, there are huge things going on in the world.
Yeah.
But there's always people working in the background, aren't there?
Yeah.
So
there's always
why have
different
we waited
teams
10
and
months
groups
for an initial response?
Yeah.
So, and you will make a lot of voters very happy if they can then take all,
get married wherever
make
you
their
want.
wedding day as easy as it possibly could be.
Yeah. It's quite a simple change.
It
isn't
is.
So.
Well, nothing in life simple,
Well,
especially
no,
when it
but-
comes to writing laws, I don't suppose. And
In
I'm not
my
gonna profess
brain,
that,
which is why I'm not
change
good with
is
law.
needed. Let's just write the law.
Yeah. Oh, God, that was my... Yeah, I never forget when I did my purchasing qualification, the law part. Oh, it's just not me. I'm just not that black and white.
No.
Oh, Ruth, I could listen to you all day.
Thanks,
I
Farley.
love it. Oh, well, thanks ever so much for coming
Oh, you're
on.
more than welcome.
We'll, so if you look in, thanks for listening. If you look in the show notes, there'll be links to all of Ruth's amazing social media and website, and all about links about what celebrantcy is. Because I want to say celibacy.
What is a celebrant?
Celebrant. What is a celebrant? So yeah, if you want to know more, and have a listen. And if you do know a couple that aren't yet engaged or just got engaged, please give them a share. Link this podcast to them so they can learn all about and what their options are for getting married. So
Absolutely.
thanks for coming on, Ruth.
More than
And
welcome. It's been great fun. Thanks for
listening.
asking me, Farley.
No worries. And thanks for listening. And you know where we are. Give us a share and a subscribe if you can. Thanks. Thanks for listening to this episode. We really hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please share with a friend who you think needs a bit of help with starting a business or even their small business, which they've already got going. Please like and subscribe to our podcast, which always helps a small business or small podcast like us. And check the show notes. We all have everything in there relating to the episode, which you might need, might want to read, and links to anyone we've interviewed and certain subjects we've spoken about. And thanks for listening.